Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the space. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining in. All right. Happy Friday Eve, everyone. Welcome back to Career Journeys with Coach Stella. I am so excited to continue this summer series. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to get in and hear my wonderful, wonderful sister's journey. You all are in for a treat. All right, without further ado, we are going to dive right in. Hello, hello, Dr. Natasha Kroom. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your journey. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. So, I have some questions for you, but like many of my other guests, we've just been flowing organically. So, I would like to kick things off with you just introducing yourself to the space. Anything you would like to share with your background that you would like the folks to know, please.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Coach Stella. I've been watching these and it's very exciting to learn about people and learn about how they've gotten where they are. I may go into nursing in a next life just on the strength of one of these previous ones. But my name, as you said, is Natasha Kroom. My gender pronouns are she, her. I some things about myself that I think are probably important to know in my career journey. I'm an army brat, so my mom was in the army and retired from the military. I've lived all over the world. I love to travel because of that. I am raised as an only child. In terms of calling home someplace, when you're a military brat, like that's like a weird question, even at my big age. But when we came back from overseas, we moved to Texas. And so that's where I finished high school, went to undergrad and master's. But I was born in the DMV, so Northern Virginia, stand up.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. So, I have tons of things we're going to dive into. So, you talked about growing up as an Army child, child of the Army. So, we're doing better as a society now. But when you were a child, I know we always got the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? So, did you have a job or career in mind as a child? And let's hear it.
Yes, so I would say two things. So I have a love of animals, even so today. So I think my very first aspirational career was to be a veterinarian. And then I learned that veterinarians had to do things that I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I couldn't imagine having to put someone's dog to sleep or things like that or surgery on animals. So, I was kind of like, oh, that's not what I really meant. I think I really meant just playing with animals all day. But I really thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. And I think as I got a little older, um, what cleared for me was I wanted to go into the army. So through high school, I was in JROTC. Through in college, I was in ROTC for the first year or two, and I was really preparing myself to go into the military. In high school, I went to all the little camps that folks can go to for JROTC. Just they help you to sort of understand and learn like what boot camp is going to be like, or things like that. And so I was fully prepared well into probably my sophomore year of college to go into the military.
All right. And so what was that shift? What was that change?
Yeah. So I don't know. I was having a conversation with my mom at the time. And I think, because I was heavy into it, right? Like I was doing drill, like I was doing arm drill, unarmed drill. I was like a drill sergeant. Like I was in it. And I was on the phone with my mom one day and she was like, so you really seem like you're about to do this. And I'm like, well, yeah, I am. Like, I feel like we've had a great life. It's afforded us a lot of wonderful opportunities. Why not? And she sincerely was like, so you're not going into the military. And she said to me, I have served this country enough for the both of us, and I want you to go and do something else. I want you to go and do anything else but the military. And I will say, because I forgot about this, in high school, while I thought the military was where I was headed. I also had gotten very involved in a student organization called the HOSA, Health Occupation Students of America. And in my first high school, they had a chapter. And so I joined there. And then when we moved, my second high school didn't have a chapter. So I started the chapter with one of my teachers at my second high school. And through that organization, I became really interested in physical therapy. But then I did an internship and I was like, oh, this means I have to touch strangers. So maybe no. But I got
You,
to meet Chuck Norris in the process of my internship. So, because, he
that
was out there breaking stuff.
That is awesome. I always talk about the power of these internships or just exploratory careers because you have that mindset like, oh, physical therapy, veterinarian, and then you go in and get exposed and you're like, shifting gears.
Yeah.
But I also love how your mom, stepped in and said, okay, she saw this journey, this road you were heading down. And once she saw, okay, you're taking this serious. Tell me why again. And after listening
Mhm.
to you saying, listen, I've
Yeah.
done this career, I've served this country, I want something different for you. And
Yes.
you taking that. So, talk me through once you said, okay, military, army is not the path. How did you shift? How did you go about finding your next path?
So a lot of that. So the physical therapy thing is important because I actually, even though I did that internship and I was like, oh, like the idea of touching strangers is not where it's at. I still went to college pre med, pre physical therapy, right? So I was still doing the ROTC stuff, but then my major, that was my major. And so I had that conversation with my mom, and so she's kind of like, go do your thing, do something else. So then I was like, okay, I'm a sophomore, I'm pre med, pre physical therapy, and then I would say the big sort of mm, pivotal moment was that I got a C in genetics. Now, I had never in my academic career, I'm talking, since I could remember grades, so whether that was middle school, high school, college to that point, I had never gotten a C in anything. And so I actually took that and I said, oh, like maybe this one class, this one C in this one subject means that I should not be a doctor of any kind. And simultaneously to that, I was very active on campus. So you can imagine if I'm starting student orgs in high school, that kind of stuff did not stop in college. So in college, as a first year student, I was an orientation leader. I joined student government. By my sophomore year in student government, I was already holding a position. Um, I pretty much did all the things that you could think of except be a resident assistant in housing. But I did everything else. Like I was on the chess team, the billiards club, the gospel choir, like all the things. And so when I got that C, I was really distraught because I'm like, what am I going to do with my life now? Apparently, I can't go into the military. Apparently, being a physical therapist is not what I'm meant to do because of this one grade. And so I was having a conversation with my student government advisor at the time, and he was like, well, have you ever heard of this thing called student affairs? And I was like, no, tell me more. And he's like, you're pretty much on a path that I would talk about it now as we call it sort of the traditional route into student affairs, which basically is code for overachieving college student, overactive, overly engaged college student who stays on a college campus for the rest of their lives, right? Working with college students. And so once he introduced me to that, and so I started asking questions like, so what kind of major do I need to do that? And specifically, what kind of major can I change to? Because I was a sophomore, where I can finish that degree in the next 2 years, because I'm not trying to go beyond 4 years um, of, of undergrad. And so I ended up at the end of my sophomore year changing my major to psychology and with a minor in sociology, and that's sort of how that happened.
All right. You were recruited. This similar stories for most student affairs professionals. We were the overactive
Yeah.
campus leaders, and like, tell me about this world. What degrees would you need? Awesome. Awesome. So introducing you into student affairs, you went into that profession.
Mhm.
So talk me through landing your first professional role. What was it and how did you go about landing it?
Yeah, so, once I learned or discovered, student affairs, I really hit the ground running. I would say there were some other important experiences in college that led me to where I am today. So, in addition to all of that stuff, I was also a Ronald E. McNair Scholar. And so, for anyone familiar with the Ronald E. McNair program, it's essentially a program that support students in earning terminal degrees. So that's really when I started think like I didn't most students going into college, they're not like, oh, I'm gonna get a this bachelor's and then I'm gonna get a master's and then like Kanye, I'm gonna get a master's. Like, no, nobody's thinking that, and let alone I'm gonna go get a doctorate, right? So the McNair program was important in my journey because it actually was my first undergraduate research experience before we had undergraduate research experiences like we have today. And so I was actually able to get a mentor, and my mentor was the vice president for student affairs because he had a faculty appointment. And I was able to do my first research study. I was able to present at the McNair Research Conference was at Penn State. And at that point, I had never been to, another college campus, let alone a different state. So that was fun. Um, when I started thinking about master's programs, of course, my student government advisor was like, "Well, there's only one place to go, and that's where I went." And so that's how I ended up at Texas A&M College Station. And interestingly, so my junior year, I became student body president, and then as Texas A&M is a system, I think it has 13 schools now. At the time I think it had 11, and all student body presidents got together, and we made up what was called the Chancellor Student Advisory Board. All that to say, my network really expanded. I got to meet the vice chancellor for academic and student affairs, Ms. Verna DeWeese, and she wrote me a letter of recommendation for the A&M master's program. And I just nurtured and cultivated that relationship with her. And so when I got to A&M, in these types of programs, you have to do internships, to learn about the field and what areas you want to go in. And so, unlike my peers who were like, "Oh, I want to do something in housing, or I want to do something in fraternity and sorority life," I was like, "I want to do something at the system office." And I reached out to Miss Verna, and she said, "I've never had an intern. I don't even know what we would do, but we're going to do it." And so I convinced my program to let me do an off-campus internship in the Texas A&M system office, and it was great. Like I was able to like use what I was learning in the classroom to teach her about advising because she was advising the student group. But people think that kind of stuff is innate, but it's actually informed by theories and practices. And so I was able to help her put together stuff for the current student boards that she was working with. I got to do site visits for new program creations. Like I got to visit Prairie View A&M University because they were launching or trying to launch a new academic program, and you can't have duplicate programs across state, things like that. I learned so much about higher education just from that alone and my experiences on the board, because in my senior year of college I became the president of the board. And so we traveled around Texas. We would go to DC. We got to meet with our lobbyists. We got to see what lobbyists for higher education do, when we could call them lobbyists. I don't think they can call them that now, but we got to see what they did and how they secured resources for universities. So I mean, it was just all in, once that decision to go into higher ed and student affairs happened.
It
Um,
sounds like that exposure, the energy, and all the information. I mean, systems, the system of higher ed. Um, it sounds like you, first of all, charted your own path. You saw what your peers typically do, and me being one of those peers is always like, okay, I went to housing. When you're like, I want to learn this entire infrastructure, and it honestly sounds like you built you informed an infrastructure of care,
mhm,
that
mhm,
she was able to then take back and implement. That's amazing
yeah.
and unheard of, and unheard of.
Well, that's
So,
why in my when I became a faculty member, I don't share all of this with students, but I always encourage them, like, what is it that you want to do? Because you're only limited by your own imagination for the most part, right? Like, I mean, resources, of course, but if you want to do something, there are usually ways to figure out how to do either that thing in whole or some part of it, right? To work your way until you get the resources to do it fully, but maybe there are pieces we can do. And so it is probably because of my own experience that that's how I show up and that's how I advise, whether I was advising a student group or whether I'm advising students as their academic advisor. Like that's how I approach it.
all right. That is awesome. So many nuggets that you've shared, and so many different strategies and resources. The McNair program, I don't think it's talked about enough. Um, uh, but I want to pause for the cause, and welcome, folks. If you're just joining us, welcome. Happy Friday Eve. We are live with Dr. Natasha Kroom as she is talking through her career journey. I want to pause and talk through our grassroots effort. We have a grassroots campaign going on here, a Let's Be Fair campaign. In today's world, where folks are feeling not only burnt out, but also feeling excluded in the workplace, we at Diversity at Workplace have started this grassroots effort of Let's Be Fair. And simply put, we are asking folks to sign this petition. It is anonymous. Sign the petition, and for each signature we get, the more signatures we get, the more CEOs that we reach out to, reminding them that diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace matters. So not only not go do away with it, but to come back together and enhance it and move forward with it, because we all want to organization. We all want a workplace where we are not just seen, but we are valued and heard. All right. So click this QR code, sign the petition, pass it on to others. Let's make a difference. Let's make some noise. Let's be fair. All right. And so back to our program here, Dr. Kroom, you talked through you talked through essentially, I'm going to call it an infrastructure, your internship, in where you built an infrastructure of care within higher education systems. So talk to me about how that experience then catapulted you into your next professional experience, and
Yeah.
what that role entailed.
So when I finished the master's degree, I went into my first full time job in student affairs. And honestly, I had actually thought that I would go straight from the master's into the doctoral program. But by the time I got to that last semester of the master's program, I was like, I don't want to write nothing. I don't want to read anything for a little while. So I was like, let me take a little bit of a break and go work full time. But I'm a pretty strategic person, so I thought, well, maybe you can go work where you want to earn the degree because in most instances there are some benefits, right? Like if you work there, you get tuition remission. And I really wanted to go to the University of Maryland as a student. And so I actually ended up getting a job at the University of Maryland in residence life there, which was amazing. I had done some residence life work at A&M, and so that was a good place to go next. And in my full time position, I carried with me some of these things we've been talking about. Like my first year, I got an award for advising because I really do believe in the power of theory to practice and practice informing theory. And so I got to know many of the people that were students there, who were staff there. Um, but when I went to, and I do want to shout out some of the staff that were there because, as you probably can tell, like I'm the kind of person where if I have an idea, I'm gonna say, "Ooh, like, let's try something new. Like, this is literally our laboratory. Let's try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work." And so I actually did revamp our student advising model for the department in my first year. And then in my second year, I worked on we basically had sort of a EDI, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee, and I worked on that committee doing, with some really good people. Um, and I started applying for doc programs. So I applied for the Maryland program. I met, I had a couple of professional development experiences where I met people from another university that I had not been considering for a doctorate, but I think the universe was like, hello. Oh, you didn't hear me the first time. Second time, hello? Anybody listening? And then the third time, I was like, okay, what is this Iowa State University? Like, where is Iowa even? And I was asking the same questions that everybody would ask me. There are black people in Iowa? Or, wait, Ohio? No, Iowa. um, and, you know, a very disappointing moment because I think to this point, much of what I had planned for my life I had gotten. But you know what? I didn't get into the University of Maryland, which I talked to my colleagues that are there today, and they're all like, "What? You didn't get in?" I'm like, "Sure didn't." But I think the universe knew better. So at one conference, I met a man, Terry Frazier, Dr. Frazier, and at the time he was a doc student at Iowa State University. And he was like, "You trying to go to school for free? You need to come check us out." And I looked at him and said, "I'm sorry, where? Okay, no, no, that won't be necessary." And then I did a mentoring program with NASPA where I was the mentee and you would sign up for a woman mentor. And so I went to that, and there were like four or five of us where the mentor didn't show up, and there was one mentor whose mentee didn't show up. So she was like, "You know what? I'll take all of the people who don't have somebody and we'll just all go talk." So she begins to introduce herself and she's like, "Hey, my name is Dr. Jenny Arthur, and I am the associate director or something like that in housing at Iowa State University." I was like, "What? What's happening right now?" And then at another conference, it was at NASPA, but a different year, I was at the opening reception and I saw my McNair mentor. Remember, he was the vice president for student affairs. I saw him. He was actually also, I was also a member of NUF in undergrad, which is the undergrad arm of NASPA. I saw him and he was talking to this really tall black man. And so I went over there and I was like, "Oh, hey, Dr. Jackson, how are you?" He's like, "Oh my God, it's so good that to run into you." He's like, "Aren't you looking for doc programs?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "Well, I think you need to meet this man because they have one of the best doc programs in the country." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Jackson. I'm the vice president for student affairs at Iowa State University." I said, "Okay, okay. Well, third time, I will listen." And that's how I applied to Iowa State, where I met the loves of my life, best friends, and had a wonderful doctoral experience. That's where I met my mentor and advisor, Dr. Lori Patton Davis, who at that time was a new faculty member, known but not known like she is today. And she took me under her wing, and that really is kind of the rest is history. I thought after the doc program, I would go back into practice. Um, and again, those pivotal moments, I don't look at her as a mom, but she did give me that mom tone one day. At the end, I came to her and said, "Okay, these are the jobs I'm looking to apply for. Can you write a letter of recommendation?" And she looked at my list and said, "I'm not writing any letters of recommendation for any job that's not a faculty job." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And we had a really good conversation. And she was like, "I feel like you don't want to do this because of imposter syndrome. I feel like you don't want to do this because of what the world tells black women they can or can't do. But I prepared you. We prepared you. And we actually prepared you for this thing. So if you want a letter from me, I'm going to need to see some more faculty jobs on here." And so that is actually how I ended up becoming a faculty member.
That is a phenomenal, phenomenal sequence of events that happened. And exactly how you said, when the universe conspires, everything comes to you. So I love my full circle moment. So allow me, bear with me here. um, sophomore year undergrad, you had your mom on the phone saying, "I know you going this way, but I want this for you. Explore more, do more, see more." And then last year of your doc program, you're trying to go back into practice and within student affairs. And again, mother figure, Dr. Lori Davis Patton, who, shout out to her because she was I believe I was her first mentee in
Hey,
her first advisee in her first professor role out of doc program. So, yes, godmother of higher ed is how I would like to refer to her. But then she stops you and says, "You going down this path? I didn't know. We didn't prepare and train you for this. You going here." And so much so that I'm not writing anything for you over here. You going over here.
yeah.
Wow.
And I didn't
Wow.
even think about it like that until you just said that.
I love my full circle moments. So anytime
Yeah,
I see it, that is
yeah.
phenomenal. Phenomenal.
And if
And
I can
shout out
add,
Dr.
oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. No, good.
Now I was gonna say shout out to Dr. Tom Hill. You called him Tom Jackson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Hill, yes. Sorry. Too many Toms in the life. Tom
Too
Jackson
many
was my
times.
undergrad mentor. Tom Hill, yes, was the vice president. Who I saw at this last NAS. We saw at this last NASPA, and I mean, he looks great. Shout out
Yes,
Olympic champion, medalist. Come on.
bronze medalist. I know his story. Dr. Tom Hill's a legend,
Yeah,
legend in student
legend.
affairs.
Um,
Um, Go ahead, please.
so, and I think the other thing, in terms of like even lessons learned, and I think this is also a thread now that I'm thinking about it with you, thinking about it with me, that thread of there's a path that people say this is the path, but you can also just buck that and make your own path, or even just be curious about another path and verbalize that, and you never know what's going to come of that, right? So
You are preaching.
even with the faculty stuff, I had a faculty mentor come to me, and because so many faculty had left Iowa State at the same time. So they were doing two faculty searches. And he's like, you really should think about applying. And I said, well, most everybody has told me no one's going to hire you from the program into the program as a faculty member, like the same place where you finished your doctorate, especially not right after. So I'm sitting here like, well, I'm not going to waste my time applying for this because that doesn't happen. Like even today, people say that, and I always have to correct them. Like, actually, that's a falsehood. Please look around. Like probably 45% of your faculty got their degree right here, like yesterday. Stop it. But I applied anyway, and I got the position, and so I ended up staying at Iowa State for another 5 years as a faculty member before I left and came where I am now. So, you know, sometimes you just have to challenge that narrative of what's possible, and just do the thing and see what comes of it, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think this is a great gem to share, even within the field of student affairs. I think student affairs has its traditions, and a lot of people try to go beyond or expand that tradition and are met with so many different barriers.
Mhm.
So, thank you for sharing that and being the example that, listen, you can chart your own path, speak it into existence, and work towards it and see what happens. Thank you for sharing that. So just want to pause really quick here because this is a great segue. I want to introduce for those of you who are feeling stuck in your careers. You thought you had one vision in mind, but now you're like, I want something new and different. We have this workshop coming up here in about 13 days on the 23rd of this month. It's a virtual workshop, Power Moves, building breaking through the hidden rules of career success. There are all these different strategies and tactics folks can do that no one ever talks about. This workshop, my colleague Sujan and I are going to break it down. So click this QR code, learn more about it. There are scholarships available. We don't want cost to be a barrier for folks. So please reach out to me. You can go find me on LinkedIn, or you can email us info at diversity at workplace for scholarship opportunities. But log in, learn more. Let's make a difference. Let's get you out there and find your next career move. Whether you have faced a setback, whatever that setback was, if you found yourself on a PIP, we all know what a PIP is. This workshop will help you rebuild and rebrand yourself. All right. So, Dr. Krum, I can keep you on here all day, let me tell you. But we just have a few moments here. I just have a couple more questions, and then I want to end with some razzle. Why was I about to call it razzle dazzle?
I don't know.
With some with some spitfire, I think they're razzle dazzle. With some spitfire questions for you. So, all right. So you were at Iowa State. You got your doc there. You were able to secure a professor role, assistant professor or associate professor. Correct me on
Assistant
that.
professor.
Assistant professor role made phenomenal. We could. That's a whole segment in and of itself. The impact you made not only to the academy, but uh, um, I'm sorry, not just within your department, but within the academy and beyond. How did that position catapult you into where you are now? If you can speak to a little bit about where you are, your roles, your accolades accrued along the way, please.
So what's interesting, I sometimes describe academia like the military. Because advancing in the military, there are ranks, so it basically is the same with academia. So if you're a tenure track faculty member, you start as an assistant professor, you get tenure, you get promoted to associate professor, And then after you do that, you can get promoted to full professor, and all of this comes with particular amount of years in between. So stayed at Iowa State for 5 years, came to Clemson University after that, also as an assistant professor. Just kept doing the work here, and built and contributed to amazing community here. Got tenure here, and promoted to associate professor. And probably a year after, so when I got promoted, the dean of my college at the time, the College of Education, he asked me to advise him to basically be his inaugural diversity, equity, inclusion advisor. So I did that for a year, which was great because, remember back when I said I was going to go back into practice after the degree? I always knew I was going to go back into administration. I just didn't know when or doing what or how. I didn't think it would be in student affairs. Wasn't really sure. So in that year, we got a new dean of the graduate school. In the year that I became the advisor to my dean in the College of Ed, we got a new dean of the graduate school, and he was looking for a new associate dean in the graduate school. And essentially, when I looked at the position, I felt like they took my experiences and my CV, my curriculum vitae, and my resume and put it on a piece of paper and said, here's a job. And so I applied for that job 1 year after tenure, got that job. Um, and now I am the associate dean for academic and student affairs. Now, the job didn't actually have, like, the title of the job was associate dean, but there were other associate deans in the graduate school, and we all do really distinct things. And so I had said to the dean, I think we should have names, like what associate dean of what do we do? And so he was like, oh, you think that, go make them. And I said, say less. And so I became the associate dean for academic and student affairs, and I get to every day work with graduate students, work with graduate faculty, and work with staff who support graduate education to ensure that our students, our graduate students, master's and doctoral students, can meet their academic goals and their career goals. And I actually really love my job. I've only ever taught graduate students, so it makes sense that I would go into administration in the graduate education space. So that has been really awesome. And I've been doing this role now. I've finished 3 years, so I'm going into my fourth academic year, and I'm pretty ready, I think, for the next step. So, dean of a graduate school, dean of a college of ed, or associate provost, something like that. Again, I'm pretty strategic, so I'd love to retire as a provost, not a president. Everybody's like, you're going to be the president. No, I'm not. I would like to be a provost. I want to help lead the academic mission of the university. Do not want to raise money for it.
Get very, very specific. I could just hear all the mentors like, oh, okay, so you think, and about to dial you and say, listen, I know you want to go this way, but you know, I love how you ended it with very specific. I want the academics and not to raise funds. So you're like, you will not pivot me again, godmothers.
I mean, pivot, but just don't include fundraising. I hate asking people for money.
Touche. Touche. Don't we all? Don't we all? Well, Dr. Natasha Kroom, we might need to bring you on for part two because there were so many gems and so many things that you shared that I just want to unpack some more, but we just can't get it all today. But for those of you who are interested or want to learn more about a career within the academy, whether it's in administration or faculty, Dr. Natasha Kroom is easily accessible. Please reach out to her via LinkedIn. She has a LinkedIn profile, but you can also reach out to Coach Stella. I have access to my sister friend here. And just a quick little fun fact when she talks about being strategic and organized, Fun fact about Dr. Natasha and myself is that the job that she had at the University of Maryland, that resident director role, I actually got that role right after her. And when I tell you, day one, when I read her end of the year report, I said, "What is this?" She wrote a dissertation, y'all. She wrote a dissertation for this entry level resident director role. And can I tell you, I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but that made me step my game up.
Mm.
That made me step my game up. I said, I inherited her staff. I said, I will not. I don't know what professional development, I don't know what type of organizational skills I need to obtain, but I will obtain it because I will not mess this up. So shout out to Dr. Krum. You have been
Thank
paving
you.
the way for folks
Thank you.
long ago.
That's
So
hilarious.
just wanted to share that nugget. All right. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. This video will be replayed on my YouTube channel. Please feel free to follow me and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button on Coach Stella OC on YouTube. But Dr. Kroom, can I end here with some Spitfire questions to kind of end on a high energy note?
Yes.
All right. So for the audience, as you all know, those who've been with me since day one, the participants, the interviewees don't have access to these questions. So this is just top of mind thinking, okay? No stress. All right.
Okay.
You ready?
Mm.
Okay, here we go. If you didn't have to work, how would you spend your 50 hours a week? What would you be doing?
Laying on a beach, getting in the ocean, listening to books, laughing with my best girlies. Oh, and
Mm,
playing with animals.
yes, can't forget the animals. All right. Um, A song that instantly gets you hyped.
Um, it's gonna be our song. It's gonna be it's Drake. What, I don't remember the name of the song. Um,
Sing it.
uh, Dang, how does that daggone song go? You know a song, the Drake song, our song. Um,
YOLO?
yes. You only live
Oh, now
once. That's the motto of the yellow, and we about it every day, every day, every day. Yes, because we are about it every day.
I couldn't remember if it had cuss words, so I'm like, you gonna
I
sing
bleeped it.
it.
I bleeped it. I bleeped the cuss word. It was a
All
cuss word
right.
right there. I bleeped it.
See, that's why you the professor. All right. You're a world traveler, so I got this one specifically for you. What is the most unexpectedly amazing place you've traveled?
Oh, unexpectedly amazing. Oh, that's hard because I think I expect most of the places to be awesome. Um, Probably Bangkok. Yeah, probably Bangkok. It was really amazing. Like it was so amazing to the point where I'm like, if this current government continues, I might become a citizen of Thailand. And that's where I want to go. I want to go to Bangkok. Like that's how amazing I felt. Like I felt welcomed. I felt, I didn't feel out of place. The markets, the food, the people are just so warm and inviting. Um, yeah, I mean, all the beautiful things to see. Yeah, I think Bangkok.
Awesome. I love it. All right, and my last one for you, I'll let you off the hook due to time. All right. What was the last act of kindness you showed someone or something?
Oh, so on the way to work this morning, as I was getting off the highway, you like merge. Well, the two lanes were collapsing to one lane, and this person, I assume they were women identified, let me in. She didn't have to let me into the, how people are. They trying to get some nowhere fast. So she let me in, and I went and I turned into the Starbucks, and like I saw that she turned behind me, and so then When I made my order and I went to the window and I paid for my Starbucks, and I was like, oh, I want to pay for the person behind me Starbucks. And then the lady was like, you can't pay for her Starbucks because it's a mobile order, but I'm going to tell the lady that you tried to pay for her Starbucks. Does that count? It was intentional. I had
That
intentions
does.
of being kind because she was kind to me.
We will count that. We
Okay,
will
thank you.
count
There
that.
we go.
I
There we
love
go.
it.
Thank you.
I love it. Dr. Natasha, Sister Natasha, to me, thank you so much for sharing your journey. What a journey. Congratulations. You didn't tell it, but I'm gonna tell it. Congratulations on your recent appointment, accomplishment of full professor.
Thank you.
You
Thank
are
you.
Professor, let me get my accent together. Professor Natasha Kroom coming to
Thank
the
you.
stage. Congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
the work you put in, the work that I've seen you put in these past couple decades. When I tell you, you are one of the hardest working women that I know. Thank you for everything you do within the academy. We know that this is a system that wasn't built for a lot of people who look like us to succeed. And I, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all the work that and all the barriers, because it's not easy, and I know it's not easy, and that's a full day conference of
Right.
the barriers that you've had to overcome. So thank you so much for sharing your story. It's going to inspire a lot of folks, the next generation. We didn't even get to the different specific tactics for the next generation, but I'm gonna cup this up and they're gonna get it.
Yes.
So thank you all so much for joining in today. Um, I will be back on here, same time, same place next week, where we have another amazing guest coming on here to share their journey. Dr. Natasha Kroom, any last final nuggets or tidbits that you would like to share with us before we let you go?
I think one first again, thank you for having me. This has been amazing and wonderful, and to again think and reflect with you as my friend and my sister and my colleague in the field. Um, the thing I would also just add is that you have to surround yourself with amazing people. And so even as you're doing this, Coach Stella, like seeing you in this kind of element is amazing. And I feel like, we feed each other. We are always there for each other. And other folks in our lives. Dr. Everett, shout out to Dr. Everett. For me, Dr. Chef, Manali Chef, like you have to surround yourself with people that maybe not are not exactly like you, but that you have values that align, and that that you can grow with each other in the good and the bad, that you can hold mirrors up to each other when you're doing too much or you ain't doing enough. And so, even in our professional careers, like that's so important. Like, I think about my relationships with Dr. Rachel Wagner, Dr. Robin Phelps Ward. Like, Clemson would not, I could not do what I am doing here without their love and the relationships that were built with them. Um, and so I think that community that we build in our careers is so important, because, the really good ones lead to lifelong sisterhoods, or, kinships, if you will, that are undeniable, and you can't get them anywhere else.
Wonderful way to end us off today. Thank you so much, Dr. Natasha. Thank you all, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Thursday.